because you found out I just gave $500,000 to UCA and you wanted to thank me. I didn't give them anything. It was your money. It's taxpayers' money, and I don't know how we can spend taxpayers' dollars for anything any better than creating jobs and education. If we get those things right, we get everything right. Which leads me really to talk about, am I going to steal your thunder if I mention something you talked about on the phone the other night? Those that don't know the president probably don't realize he gets about 4.5 hours sleep a night. And he loves to call you at all hours. And he can't stand to be alone, so if he gets bored, he just starts calling people. So the other night I'm watching a football game or something on TV, and my cell phone rings, and it's the president. And usually it's people call during the day, but I guess he'd run all them off, so he's calling himself. And he said, I'm going through these polls in Arkansas, and I'm looking at all these stats, and one of the things that stands out is that people view Mike Ross and Mark Pryor as individuals who can work with everybody, regardless of their political party, and can bring people together and can solve problems. That's what we ought to be talking about. We ought to be talking about who they are versus who their opponents are and how they can work together. Now I wasn't going to do this, but I've decided I'm going to do it. Pat Hayes' opponent is a smart guy. He's a good guy. He's worked with me, and he's helped me. And he worked with the last legislative session on some major issues. So imagine my disappointment when, for pure political purposes, during a Republican primary season, he came out knowing better against the private option, which has insured 200,000 people, saved our hospitals, spent our tax dollars in Arkansas instead of spending them to California, and taking care of Arkansas people, and he came out against that just for political votes when he knew better. That's enough reason right there to tell you we want somebody who will stand behind us and not take cheap political shots. And if there's anybody in Washington who decries the overt partisanship and the inability to get anything done across party lines and to try to do away with gridlock that exists up there, if there's any human being up there that personifies that willingness to work together and get stuff done, it's the senior senator from Arkansas, Mark Pryor. And we need more Mark Pryors and less of that other stuff. I don't know if that's a dog behind me. Whatever it is, I think he sounds like a Democrat. It's a yellow dog. Yeah, the president said it's a yellow dog. And I have known Mike Ross and served with him in the Senate, and he did precisely in the United States Congress what Mark Pryor has done in the United States Senate. And that is, he's tried to figure out how we move the country forward and work together in a fashion that allows problems to be solved rather than ideological differences to divide us in a fashion that nothing happens. So if you want somebody who will take a divided legislature, Republicans and Democrats, somebody who will continue what's gone on with the previous governors of trying to put Arkansas first and make Arkansas move forward, Mike Ross is your man. Mike Ross will be the next governor for that very reason. He works for our country. I'm not going to presume that every human being in this audience is registered to vote. I'm going to assume almost all of you are registered to vote, but and I don't want to embarrass anybody, so I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. But this is the last day to go register. And anybody in this audience who is not currently registered, please go do it. Are we registering anybody here as we speak?
Find someone with a clipboard.
There's somebody with a clipboard out there in the back. Look at him. And if you are not registered to vote, now, I don't want you having registered in Washington, D.C. last week. And
come on now.
I only want you registered in one place. But if you haven't registered, please do so. And every vote counts. A big turnout means these folks win. And a big turnout by really good, smart, educated, hardworking college students makes all the difference in the world. UCA needs to lead the way in that regard. And now it is my pleasure to introduce somebody who really doesn't need an introduction, but I enjoy introducing him this way every time I get the chance. Ladies and gentlemen, the 42nd governor of Arkansas, Bill Clinton. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, UCA. And thanks for letting other people come. I saw a Hendrick sign back there. Thank you for coming. I want to thank President Courtway and the entire UCA staff for having us here. I want to thank the other candidates here, Representative Steve McGee, my longtime friend, Representative Tommy Thompson, Frank Shaw, candidate for the House, Tyler Pearson, candidate for the Senate, and a graduate of the Clinton School of Public Service. Our candidate for Land Commissioner, Mark Robertson, and John and Penny Boykalter. John's running for Lieutenant Governor, a longtime friend of mine. I'd appreciate your support for him. I'm glad to be here for Pat Hayes, for Mike Ross, for Mark Pryor, with Mike Beebe. There was a hilarious headline in a website called Real Clear Politics. And this is what it said. It said, Clinton goes back to the briar patch, his Arkansas obsession. But thank goodness Vincent Zalaco actually talked to the reporter and said, you don't understand, he comes back here all the time. I mean, I was in Faulkner County the other day to look at the tornado damage. I buried 2 cousins and one of my mother's best friends this year. I'm about to go to my 50th high school reunion. I hate it, but I am. And in November, we're going to have the 10th anniversary of the Presidential Center in Little Rock. You're all invited, by the way. I love my native state. Without you, I never would have had a chance to do anything. And I didn't come back to the briar patch, I'm here. I came back to the future of Arkansas and the future of America. That's what you represent. And so, the first thing I want to say is, you probably figured this out, this is not an ordinary election. And you see these polls, they're all over the place. Tell you a little secret about polls. They're all correct. You say that's not possible. But it is possible. It depends on who they poll. And they have to figure out what's the percentage of people by race who are going to vote. What's the percentage of people by gender who are going to vote. And for the most important thing here, what's the percentage of people by age who are going to vote. These people are here with these clipboards because there are more than 10 people in this place that aren't registered. And we're here and we're going to other campuses because historically in non-presidential years, there's a big drop-off in the youth vote. And the opponents of these candidates are betting there will be this year. And I'm betting there won't be. And it's up to you. Nobody's got a bigger stake in this than you do. So I want to urge you to register, and I want to urge you to vote, and I want to tell you why. First of all, there's a reason Mike Beebe has the highest approval rating of any governor in America.
He doesn't run away from his party label. He's proud to be a Democrat. He's been for progressive things, but he believes he should listen to and work with everybody. It's sort of in our DNA down here. You know, I was raised to believe that I couldn't possibly be right all the time. And so I never said to anybody, it's my way or the highway. I also believe we have to share the future. And that we want a future of shared prosperity and shared responsibilities. And that means we need to share the decision making. It's just the way things are. And we're too little to fight all the time. Here's what I want to tell you. You know, my foundation, we work all over the world now. I have 3 brave people working for our Health Access Initiative 4 in Liberia, where the Ebola outbreak has occurred. And we were running an AIDS program there, and they asked them, the government did, said, can you please stay? We don't have a health system. Will you help us organize a response? And in our family, we say a little prayer for those 4 people every day, that they won't be infected and that they will turn the tide. Here's what I know. Everywhere in America and everywhere in the world, people are working together, good things are happening. And everywhere people fight all the time and think constant conflict and division and my way or the highway is the best thing, good things are not happening. So you have a choice. Mike Beebe's popular because Arkansas has the biggest drop in the percentage of uninsured people, people without health insurance in the country. We rank number 1. People say, I really don't like that health care law. 200,000 working families and their kids have health insurance because of it. Man, you got a good model here. You know, just below us is Louisiana. They took the my way or the highway deal. They said, oh, we're not going to take that Medicaid money, not us. It's all bad. So what happened? We rank first in the country in the percentage of people who got health insurance. And they're near the bottom because they wouldn't take the expansion and give working families the chance to insure their kids and themselves. And guess what? It's just been announced that it's estimated that under the private option program, insurance premiums in Arkansas will actually go down this year, 2%. Down. Why is that? Because if you're under 26 and you're on your parents' policies, or if you get into private option, then when you need health care, you're not uninsured. If you get health care when you're uninsured, somebody else got to pay the bill. So what happened in our neighboring state of Louisiana? Blue Cross there has asked for a rate increase of 18.5%. The difference on average across the nation is $1,800 a year to families who are healthier and have more money in their pockets because Mike Beebe did the right thing working with Democrats, Republicans, Independents, anybody who cared about putting the people of Arkansas first. The same thing is true in education. You know what the national average high school graduation rate is? 81%. You know what it is in Arkansas now? 84%. And the real reason all these student loan issues are so important that Senator Pryor was talking about is we're still not above the national average in the percentage of people that go to college and get degrees. There are almost 250,000 Arkansas adults who've actually done time in an institution of higher education and couldn't finish their degrees, mostly for economic reasons. So we got a big opportunity here. When Pat Hayes served for 24 years as mayor of North Little Rock, we've known each other every day of those 24 years and then some. And I can tell you, because I was president during 8 of those years, he became one of the most highly regarded mayors, not just in Arkansas, but in the United States. Because he balanced 24 budgets, he cut the size of the government, he increased the scope of their activities in all the ways he's talking about. You really think he got the ballpark and the arena and Caterpillar there dealing only with Democrats? No, he dealt with everybody and treated everybody right, and his word's good. And he didn't wake up in the morning thinking, I wonder who I can make mad today. If I make the right people mad, somebody from out of state will send me a big check. You're laughing, but it's true, isn't it?
They're Koch brothers.
Everybody's trying to hijack our politics, and you have to own it here, because only your lives will be affected. After this election, they'll go off and worry about something else, and you'll be stuck with the people that get elected. So, Mike Ross, I've known since he was a teenager when he drove me around in the governor's race 32 years ago. He probably wishes he were still a teenager. I knew he had something even then. And you got an unusual opportunity in the governor's race and the Senate race, because all four candidates have served in Congress, and they've all got a record. Mike Ross and Mark Pryor have proven that they will work with anybody to get something done, and that they hate inaction and gridlock and shutting the government down and not anybody doing anything for anybody else. And they've done it under Republican as well as Democratic presidents. Mark Pryor was one of 14 senators, 7 Democrats and 7 Republicans, who made an agreement when George Bush was president to break the gridlock on nominating federal judges. You know what happened? He got a higher percentage of his nominated approved than I did or than President Obama has. Why? Because they broke the gridlock. Because as Democrats, we proved we were willing to work with them. Mike Ross was a leader in the so-called Blue Dog Caucus. They were always pushing through bipartisan budget bills and solutions to problems. Their opponents can't say that. Mark's opponent voted against the Farm Bill. 36% of our GDP is tied to agriculture. That's a really good move. He said, oh, I had to do it. They polluted it with the food stamp bill. The food stamp bill has always been in the Farm Bill, and by the way, we're spending way less on food stamps because the unemployment rate's going down. But the money goes to farmers. And you heard Mark talk about all those other votes. But I just want to say that we know what they'll do by what they've done. If you like Mike Beebe's style of leadership, you got to vote for Mike Ross and you got to vote for Mark Pryor, because they'll do it. Now, just think a minute about what the attack against them has been. They're really running against the president, aren't they? Yeah. They say now, they see these polls, the president's unpopular in Arkansas, and yeah, the economy's coming back, but nobody believes it yet because you don't feel it. But remember what I said 4 years ago, or 2 years ago in Charlotte. Financial crises take an average of 10 years to get over. We just crossed over, and we're now creating more jobs above where we were before the crash. 6 years, 4 years ahead of the global average for 150 years. We're doing better than that. I don't expect anybody to vote on it or anybody to be happy about it, because middle class incomes haven't risen. The average family's making less adjusted for inflation than they were the day I left office. But I'm telling you the truth, we're coming back. We got 700,000 more manufacturing jobs. We're making more cars than we've made in 8 years. We've got 10 million new jobs. In 3 of the last 4 quarters, the growth rate's been 3.5, 4.5, and 4.6%. More jobs have been created here than in Europe and Japan combined. And they got a lot more people than we do combined. So we're going to come back. So what you have to ask yourself is, who's going to put the pedal to the metal? What does Arkansas need? We need more college graduates. We need to reform the student loan program. We need to find a way to help people refinance those loans at lower interest rates. We need to give everybody a chance to pay it back as a percentage of their income. Mark Pryor will do it, and his opponent won't. We need to build on the advances in education and figure out a way to abolish the distinction. This is my obsession, abolish the distinction between what is academic and what is practical, so that people can get college degrees and they can have practical skills. Mike Ross will do it. His opponent won't talk about that. Now, I could go through all those issues, but you know I'm telling you the truth. So why would you not vote? It's your future. It's your future. It's true, I just became a grandfather, and you care more about the future when you get a kid or a grandkid. That's true. But all my life, I thought that one of the greatest privileges I ever had was being born and growing up here, where I was taught not to turn away from anybody because of their race or their income or their political party, or just because they disagreed with me on something. I was taught by my mother that every now and then I would be wrong, and I needed to keep my ears open. I need to listen as much as I talked. I didn't quite take that to heart. But I try. And I'm just telling you, you cannot afford to do what their opponents want. They want you to make this a protest vote. All three of these races, they're saying, hey, you may like these guys, but hey, you know what you got to do. You got to vote against the president. After all, it's your last shot. It's a pretty good scam, isn't it? Give me a 6-year job for a 2-year protest. That's Mark Pryor's opponent's message. Yeah, I voted to cut student loans. Yeah, I voted to raise the interest rate. Yeah, I voted against the Violence Against Women Act. No, I'll never vote for equal pay for equal work. Are you kidding? When I vote to raise the minimum wage? No way. But I'll give you one more protest vote. To do it, you got to give me 6 years for a protest that will be irrelevant in 2. Or in the case of the governor, you got to really cast that protest vote. Give me a 4-year job that doesn't have a lick to do with Washington, D.C., so you can have one more protest. Does that make any sense to you? Throw your future out the window. Don't care about the college loans. Don't care about having preschool for every kid. What do we know? We know the average poor child, when he or she starts school, if they came from a family that couldn't afford to send them to kindergarten, and couldn't afford a pre-kindergarten program, has heard, listen to this, 3 million fewer words. Do you think that word gap ought to depend on what your income is? Or as Mike says, what your zip code is? He doesn't, I don't. If you don't, you better vote for Mike Ross for governor. So, and Pat Hayes, it's true, he's only got a 2-year term, but one of the things we know about him is he cut the budget, balanced the budgets, and still did more. And he will work with people. I get tickled. His opponent once gave him an award for being a fabulous mayor, and now he's criticizing him for the term he once praised him for. If you get a bipartisan budget deal, the president will sign it. Any president will sign it. I've been there, I know. If it's bipartisan, it will be signed. Pat Hayes will do that kind of work for you. This is really important. If you really understand why Mike Beebe got the highest approval rating of any governor in the country, you have to vote for Pat Hayes and Mike Ross and Mark Pryor, because they will do that. And basically the decision being presented to our voters is this. That all makes perfect sense, Bill, but really I have to do it one more time. I've got to cast a protest vote. Why? Because all this out-of-state money buying television ads tells me to. I'd like to think about Arkansas. I'd like to think about our future. I'd like to think about what would be best for our children and grandchildren, but I just can't do it. Or you can honor Mike Beebe's service and continue his legacy by voting for what you are for, not what you are against. That is the right thing to do. Ever since I was a little boy, we had all that civil rights trouble here. I've been sick and tired of people trying to stir people up, make them foam at the mouth, and vote for what they're against instead of what they're for. How many times have we seen people do something they knew better than to do just because they were in a snit? Look at this campus. I've been coming here a long time. You have no idea how much it's grown, how much better it is, what all's going on here compared to what used to go on here. Look at this crowd. You have no idea how much more diverse it is, how much more hopeful it is, how much more full of potential it is. There is nothing that can hold us back but us. So, that's it. Be faithful to the true heritage of your state. Mike Beebe arranged at the Southern Governors Conference to have Waylon Holyfield's wonderful song, Arkansas, You Run Deep in Me, sung. We commissioned, when I was your governor, a contest to write a song for our 150th birthday. The end of it is, I may wander and I may roam, but I will never be far from home. You're in my heart and you'll always be. Arkansas, you run deep in me. Vote your heart. Don't vote for what they tell you have to be against. Vote for what you know you should be for. Vote for Mark Pryor. Vote for Mike Ross. Vote for Pat Hayes. Vote for Mike Beebe's legacy, and you'll be happy a month from now. Thank you, and God bless you.